It's my great joy to introduce our guest speaker. She chose to be here for our facilitator We had a training Friday night and all day Saturday, and it's one of 9. One is going to be in Kelowna in Canada, and the other 8 are here in the United States. And the purpose of these trainings is to elicit the ideas of our new curriculum. And we just had a fantastic time yesterday doing that. And we know that others will be joining with their consciousness and their ideas from Seattle and from Atlanta and from other places that I've forgotten that Tracy told me. I didn't want to say the wrong 6 cities. Anyway, she is a diversity trainer, and when I knew that she was coming here to do the training for the lifelong learning, I knew for sure that I wanted to start out this month on diversity and inclusivity with someone who does this. Not only does she do diversity workshops for centers and churches everywhere, but also she teaches the ministers in the Homes Institute. She just came from teaching them their class on diversity. She and I go back to the Leadership Council. She came in my 2nd year on the Leadership Council, and she took that Leadership Council and whipped it into shape. She is so organized and such a brilliant mind, and we've been struggling with what's ours to do and how do we do it, and she just clearly just took the main ideas and gathered them all together as we, who were here over the weekend, saw how brilliant she is of doing that. She was a treasure for all of Centers for Spiritual Living. And as part of that Leadership Council, and we're very blessed that she is running again for Leadership Council because she went off, and now she happens to be the only practitioner, so she's already on the new Leadership Council for 2017 through 2020. Yeah, awesome. She's an author and speaker as well as a facilitator. She has just a few of her books here. She's a practitioner. So her main work is affirmative prayer. Her main work, so this book that I'm holding up is a collection of affirmative prayers. It's really good. It's called I Turn to Prayer. And I've seen her do it. I know she does it. I know she's good at it. And we're in for a big treat. So please welcome, speaking on To Be Human is to Embody Paradox, the amazing Tracy Brown.
Heather. Never let someone who knows you well introduce you. Thank you, Dr. Heather, because you never know what they're going to say, right? I am really excited to be here, and I'm really excited to be exchanging ideas and planting some seeds in your head, especially about this idea about paradox in the context of diversity and inclusion. As I was preparing, I kept thinking about this title, To Be Human is to Embody Paradox, and ideas would rush through my head, and after about 30 ideas rushed through my head, I took a deep breath and I said, wait a minute, do I even really know what paradox means? Like, maybe all these ideas don't even fit. And it was a really good thing I looked it up. I was pretty close. But in case any of you are like me, it's like paradox is a word you've heard, but you want to double check that you do know what it means. One way to summarize a paradox is that it's something, some values, or some situation that seems really contradictory, or maybe it seems like it's presenting 2 ideas or facts that are inconsistent with one another. However, when you consider them, both of the ideas or both facts or ideas, they actually are true. So you heard in the song that was just sung, examples of paradox, right? Where you're expecting one thing and you get something else. And that's what happens to us in our lives every day. And so just to be human, just to be alive, most of us experience this example or this concept of paradox as we go through our day all the time. Many of the things that are paradoxical, we are so used to that we don't even think about it anymore. So simply being human in our life, in books we read, we come across paradox constantly. So I'll give you a few examples. One, we teach our children the goal is to win. Do what you need to do to win. Learn how to play so you can win, win, win. And then we tell them, you better be a good loser. It's like if I'm a young child, I'm going like, wait, I'm supposed to win, but if I lose, I got to be a good loser. But I want to win. It's like it doesn't make sense if you just look at it. But we do know because we've grown up with that. We know why we teach that. We know how to teach it. And most of you sitting here today don't think anything about that. They don't seem so contradictory because you're used to the paradox. You're used to living in that. Maybe some of you grew up in households where you were taught, be early to be on time. Now, I didn't grow up in a house like that, but when I got into the world of work, I met a lot of people who grew up with that, like be early or be on time. No, be early to be on time. It's a paradox that makes sense to most of us as we are adults. In literature, the classic book from George Orwell, Animal Farm, one of my favorite quotes from that book is this one. All animals are equal. In fact, you can see it, read it with me. All animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others. Now, we know that that applies not only to animals or maybe the human beings as animals too, but when we look at it, we go, well, yeah, it's a paradox. And in Shakespeare, a lot of the Shakespearean plays, he really used a lot of paradox to make a point. And in Hamlet, Hamlet, the lead character in the play Hamlet, has a line where he says, I must be cruel to be kind. And if you know the story of Hamlet, he was planning, his intention was to murder his mother's current husband because he felt that was the kind thing to do to save her from being in such an intimate relationship with the man who she had now married, not knowing that this man had killed her initial husband, who she loved very much. And so it became an example for doing something that might look cruel or be perceived as cruel, but with a motive that is coming from kindness. So that's what paradox is. And in our lives, we live in paradox constantly. And I bet most of you can think of examples in your own life where you have learned lessons growing up, or you live today, or you teach your daughter, or your grandchildren. Things, values especially, that are truly paradoxical. When I think about paradox, I think when I'm first faced with a paradox, I feel this confusion, this dissonance, and sometimes I don't know what to do about it. And when I look back at my own childhood, one of the places where paradox really came forward at several different times, and each time with more intensity, was about something that seems really simple. How many of you grew up being told it's important for you to give good eye contact or positive eye contact to the people you're talking to? Well, I was told that as well. But what's interesting about that and what made it a paradox was that when I was growing up, very young, good or positive or appropriate eye contact meant that for anyone, my parents or anyone who was an authority figure or older, significantly older than me, appropriate eye contact was deflected, looking down out of respect. And then, of course, I went to school and I was told, look at me, look at me. How do I, I'm talking to you, look up. And it was like, wait a minute. And the phrase was used, appropriate eye contact, right or good when I was small, good eye contact. You need to look at me. I need to see your eyes. And I was like, wait a minute. At home, I'm being told good eye contact is one thing, and at school I'm being told something else. And at different stages of my life, I've been in different situations where there's a different description or definition of what is appropriate in whether you look at someone directly or whether you deflect or whether you look down. And it felt like a paradox as I was learning to do one thing in one situation and a different thing in different situations. In our American values, we have a lot of paradox that shows up. A lot. So we say that we value freedom, freedom for all in this nation. And for more than half of our history as a country, we have allowed or been proponents of slavery, or we have built an economy around slavery. And it's a huge part of our history. And so it's like, wow, how do both of those stay in the same frame of reference, that freedom for all is a core value and slavery is a part of our history that impacts even how we interact with one another today? It's a paradox. I don't know. Actually, I like that. Say that with me. It's a paradox. Yeah, because we know, being human, and we embody paradox, that we don't have to get freaked out by it. So it's kind of cool to notice, oh, it's a paradox. So now what will I do about that? Rather than it's a paradox, it's broken, we're broken. Because we're not broken. We're just navigating the complexities of everyday life. Another example from our American values is equality, that everyone is equal. We value that. We believe it. We teach it. We know that that's true. And at the same time, we know and we teach that everyone is an individual, and whatever's going on in your life, you are an individual. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps and make it happen. Whatever you want to happen in your life, you can do it. It doesn't matter about the people around you. It doesn't matter what Dr. Heather taught you in class. It doesn't matter, what song you heard in service. You are an individual and you have the power to rise up. And they're both true. Right? We treat that everyone is equal, and as an individual, you have responsibility and opportunity to succeed or to experience life in a unique way. So as human beings, we know a lot already about embodying paradox. Even in our spiritual beliefs, we are challenged to embody paradox. So I'm just curious, is there anyone in the room, actually I want you to stand up if you came here today and you consider yourself human. Right, stand up if you're able. Okay, you can sit down. Well, that's a lot of people, so I don't know, Dr. Heather. That doesn't leave too many people to stand up for this one. So is there anyone here who can stand up because they consider themselves an expression of divinity? Oh, So you're both, right? You're both. Humanity and divinity is our experience, and we teach it from a spiritual perspective. It's a paradox because, on the one hand, you think you have to choose one or the other. But our teaching reminds us that we are both human and divine. In fact, often what you'll hear is we'll say we are spiritual beings having a human experience. We are not one or the other. We show up and we navigate life with both. And when we're really, really good with that and grounded in that, then, we have these wonderful, amazing lives, whether we're meditating or just peacefully existing. But about a month ago, during the holidays, the end of year, December holidays, I was meeting with a client doing a practitioner session, and she said to me, Tracy, please remind me that I am a spiritual being because I'm having a human experience. And it was that moment that we all have where sometimes we're having such a human experience. Maybe the human experience is 95% of what feels like is going on that we're looking at right here and right now. And we need that reminder that, no, really, there's a spiritual being operating you in every moment. And that's what paradox is. And we use our spiritual practices to return to that place where we actually go through our lives embodying the paradox from the spiritually guided place and not the reactive, ego-led human place. So does this make sense to you? So paradox shows up in our life, in our literature. Paradox shows up in the way that we go through and our culture in this country. And paradox shows up even in our spiritual beliefs. And so it shouldn't surprise us that when we think about the fact that each one of us is unique from a spiritual perspective, we can also say that we are all one. One does not move the other completely out of the way. The founder of Science of Mind, Ernest Holmes, said that we find ourselves not absorbed, not a melting pot, not melting away and absorbed, but immersed in a universality that where each one of us is a unique individual, and a different manifestation of that which itself is one, that which itself is undivided, that which itself is indivisible and whole. It is oneness, and each one of us is a unique way of expressing that one that is indivisible. Now, sometimes people have said to me, but wait, Tracy, if we have oneness, if I believe in oneness, then I shouldn't have to notice any difference. I shouldn't have to notice that each one of these amazing singers has a different voice, a different range, a different tone, or each musical instrument plays differently, some have strings, some don't. It's insane. Of course we're going to notice that each instrument is different. Each singer is different. Just like we notice every type of flower in the garden is different. If I plant a rose bush, I don't expect to see tomatoes come up in that spot. If I plant tomatoes, I don't expect to see cucumbers come up in that spot. I notice the differences because all together Those are different types of plants or different types of flowers, different types of musical instruments, different types of vocalists. So when people say to me, if we believe in oneness, we should not notice differences, I take a deep breath and I say, I'm not really sure I agree with you, and begin to use examples like that. Ernest Holmes actually said the universal is infinite. The possibility of differentiating is endless. There is no mistake that each one of us shows up differently, because otherwise God's spirit, the universe, would be creating itself exactly the same way over and over and over and over and over again. And I don't know, for me, that would feel kind of boring. And we might not get as much done because I need people around me who have different skills and different talents, who have lived in different parts of the world, who have experienced different things than I have, so that we together can continue to build this world that is always expanding and constantly growing. So we are each unique. That is not an accident, even though we are all created by the same source. That is what diversity is. And we're unique in so many different ways. So we're unique by obvious physical ways, which might be gender, or it might be our race or ethnicity. But we're different in many, many ways that are not visible. It might be sexual orientation or our religious path up until we came together in this path. It might be our education or our economic status or how we grew up or where we grew up. All of those ways that we're different are so juicy, delicious. So juicy, delicious. So the goal is not uniformity, that we're all the same. The goal is unity. Unity, not uniformity. And that's what we're talking about when we say we want to embrace the paradox. Embracing that we are different from one another, and at the same time, we come from the same source. Maya Angelou, I love, absolutely love this quote. While I know myself as a creation of God, I am also obligated to realize and remember that everyone else and everything else is also God's creation. And if we can remember that, then it's easy to remember that diversity is part of the divine design. It is not a problem. It is not an issue to be fixed. It is not a story to be hidden. It is something to really recognize as an opportunity to enrich our individual experience and our collective experience. So I say to people, if we really believe in oneness, then we should celebrate all of the ways that we are different from one another. Because when I celebrate where you've lived and what you've done and who you know and what your skills and talents are, I am seeing the face of God showing up as you. I am seeing some different way that spirit is expressing that I could never express. And I get to see and learn more about this universal presence that is called by so many names, because I get to know you, or I get to meet you, or I get to be taught by you. So that's what embodying the paradox of diversity and inclusion is all about, because oneness is not sameness. And oneness in its purest form is inclusive of all ways of showing up. It is not one or the other. It is all of it. The universal mind contains all knowledge and is ever expanding. Spirit experiences life through each one of us, so no two of us is the same. And I'm just saying the same thing in another way because it's so important to me that you hear it and you get it here, but that you also begin to feel it. So this week, as you go out in this first week of the month where the focus will be on diversity and inclusivity, then I invite you this week to really consider and look for both diversity and inclusivity. To, as you go through the week, to see the spiritual perfection in people who don't look like you, people who didn't vote like you, people who have different experiences than you, people who are different ages than you. See their spiritual perfection. Look for it. And remember the oneness, that seeing who they are takes nothing away from you. It, in fact, enriches and enlarges your experience. So embody the paradox as you go through the week. Grace Spear said only one thing registers in the subconscious mind. That's practice. So practice what you want to see, because what you practice is what you manifest. So practice this week looking for diversity and considering it from a place of oneness. Practice this week really seeing and embracing the paradox. Do not practice ignoring diversity. Don't be like these guys, thinking diversity is evil, so I will see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. No, that's not what we want you to practice. We want you to see God in each other. Mother Teresa reminded us that there is love for each other. Where there is love for each other, that is where there is peace. And so as you walk through embodying this paradox, you will, instead of being ignoring of the differences, you will see it, you will feel it, and you will be a part of it. Reverend Catherine Revoir, a Science of Mind minister, said, God is all there is, and we are direct and beautiful expressions of it. That is who I want to be, and that is how I want to see each one of you. And I hope as you go through this week, you will practice seeing and being a direct and beautiful expression of the divine, knowing that to be human is to embody the paradox of diversity and inclusion.
In this moment, in this place, I remember who I am. Letting fear and worry fall away from me, I open my eyes and see there is only love. There is only love. Love that heals, love that sets us free. There is only love.
There is only love. There is only love, one presence, one power in the universe. It's called by many, many names. God, Allah, Buddha, higher power, spirit, the universe. There is only love, no matter what name you call it. It is that love that is seeking to express in every form of creation. That love is the source of all of life, including every life in this room. Every life, every form of life, and every form of life. Breathe in that love, knowing that this is the love that is claimed right here and right now as the source of life for every creation, every person, every animal, every fish, every fowl. And it is that love that is seeking to be expressed through each one of us into the world. And so we embrace the paradox of diversity, knowing diversity is a divine design that is not a mistake. It is not a problem. It is not an issue to be fixed, and instead, it is an opportunity to love. There is only love. And each one of us commits right here and now to be that love, to see love in each face we meet. Take a breath. And with that breath, we simply sink into gratitude for the opportunity to love, the opportunity to embody paradox, and the opportunity to be the expression of God and love in the world. And so we release this love in this moment into the flow of divine activity, knowing that there is no barrier, there is nothing that can stop it, there is nothing that can block it, there is only releasing love into love, more expanding 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 love. Yes, that is what we release into right here and right now. We let it go. Ashe.